when it comes to bridling, I refuse to stand on any bucket, any step, just to put a bridle in my horse's mouth. You know, some horses throw their heads way up here, and I refuse to go up here and try to put the bridle in his mouth. I want his head about where it is right now. And I started teaching him it by whenever I put my hands on his head, he'd start lowering his head. And I didn't, bring your head back up, good boy. I didn't, good boy. He knows what he's supposed to do. He knows. So when I started with him, I just put my hands on here. I wouldn't try to push his head down at all. I just rest my hands on his head, and as soon as those ears dropped and his head came towards me, I'd take the pressure away. Now, it's always the pressure that asks our horses to do the things we want them to do. And it's always the release that tells the horse that they actually got the right answer. Without the pressure, the horse is never going to do the things we want them to do. And without the release, the horse will never know they got the answer right and did a good job. So if there's not a release, the horse will just become confused and not understand what we're wanting him to do. So we started with this, and he started putting his head down really nicely. The same thing goes with haltering. I'll do halter horses the same way. Put his head down. If he keeps his head there, then tell him he's a good boy. If he brings it back up, I'm going to ask him to put it back down. You know, this is where I want his head when I put a bridle and halter on him. Then one of the next things I did is I made sure he was comfortable with my hands around his mouth. I'll play with his muzzle here a little bit, play with his nose. Good. And once they're comfortable with this, and I'll start putting my finger in their mouth. Good. And that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to open his mouth and tell him he's a good boy. I'll do it again. Now, some horses throw their heads up, and you'll see this with the next horse when we're bringing in. This horse is going to be throwing his head up. What I do is I'll just stick with it until he brings his head down, or keep my finger in there as much as I can until he brings his head down without getting bit. If you think you're going to get bit, don't do it. Good. Good boy. And again, good. So after you got real good with that, and the bridle, you could actually, I'll do it with this right here real quick. You could actually practice a little bit, you know, either with your reins or with the cotton lead rope, it really doesn't matter. And I can start teaching them how to bridle like this. You know, I'll open his mouth, I'll slide it in and go over this ear, then this ear. And that way, if they do throw their heads up in the process, the bit isn't going to bang their teeth. If the bit bangs their teeth, the horse is going to get hurt, and after a while, you're going to have a bridling problem because every time the bit goes in, the bit bangs bangs against the horse's teeth, and the horse is getting hurt, and he's smart enough to know better. He said, every time this darn thing goes in my mouth or out of my mouth, I'm getting hurt doing it. Good boy. Okay, come here. So you can sit here and, you're all right. You can sit here and practice this for a while until your horse gets really comfortable with accepting the rope going in his mouth. It's no different than the bridle. Good. Hold it here then. Take it out. He has to keep his head down while it's coming out of his mouth. Good. And that way we don't bang his teeth. Then when it does come to the bridle, good boy, Marco. What I do is I'll hold the bridle right here. Hold the bridle right here. Then slowly bring it up. I'll get the bit ready for him. I'll lift up his lip, open his mouth. I'll slide it in with this hand up top. Then I'll go over this ear, then this ear, then the bridle is in. Good boy. All right.